Hello and welcome to another of Big Orbit's Cardfight Vanguard weekly updates. My name is James and I'll be going through the cards revealed to us through the past 7 days. To start off with, we have a couple of familiar faces, the first one being Follower Dragon Maid Reyes from Kagero, who's looking an awful lot like Sakura from Fire Emblem Fates, but she is now a perfect guard for Kagero. She has the Blaze keyword, and also with the Generation Break of 1 and a Soul Blast of 1, at the end of the battle that she boosted, you may return her to hand. This is probably one of the best of these new perfect guards, purely because Blaze is such an easy condition to meet with Kagero. Although Dragonic Overlord decks probably won't be using her much, they'll probably stay with Protect Orb Dragon because of his countercharge, and the fact that he's a Flame Dragon, so Dragonic Overlord the Legend can easily search him out from the top 5 cards, but Reyes is pretty good for Dragonic Blade Master decks. Of course though, where there's a Reyes, there's a Sutherland. Sutherland is now a grade 3 unit with the full name Dragonfang Chain Bullet Sutherland. Luckily he makes such a great backup for Dragonic Blade Master purely because all of his skills can be used either on the Vanguard or the Rearguard Circle. The first one being just the keyword Blaze, but the second one is when another card is placed in the same column as him, you can counterblast 1 to choose one of your opponent's cards in the same column as him and retire it. Now if he's being boosted by the new Reyes, you can Soul Blast 1 to put her back to hand after she's boosted, therefore you can just keep on doing it turn after turn as long as you don't have to perfect guard your opponent. He has no Generation Break either, so he makes for an early game backup. So if your opponent's got some laurels on the field or something like that, you can easily get them through as soon as you ride grade 3. And his last skill is he gains 4000 power when the new Reyes is behind him, so he becomes a 21k column. I like to see all these old characters return even without the Legend deck, and who knows, people might actually start using the old Chain Attack Sutherland because he gains power when something's retired in the main phase, and it's pretty easy to do that these days, so we may see him, maybe only in budget decks, but I think he could get quite powerful in certain matches. Radiant Dragon is our Glimmer Breath clone, so as Glimmer Breath clones go, with a Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, and if you have the new Strider Vanguard, which is Dragonic Blade Master for Kagero, you can retire one of your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guards, and then Radiant Dragon gains plus 2000 power, as well as plus 2000 power for each of your opponent's empty rear guard circles until the end of the turn. So this makes him a 21,000 power unit on his own, and also what Kagero usually struggled against, which was Magia, Hollow, and Great Nature. It's less of a problem now because that equals more power towards him. It's bad against clans that have a lot of resist like Aqua Force and Neo Nectar, but also bear in mind that the second power-up skill, the plus 2000 for each of your opponent's empty rearguard circles, is continuous. So you could use Irresist Dragon or something. If it hits, that gives you another plus 4000 to him, potentially. You get less of a choice to what to retire than Twilight Arrow Dragon, and the cost is a little bit more expensive, but they can work together the same with Irresist and Radiant Dragon, because Twilight can shoot down some guys, while Radiant Dragon gains more power. Some people have been saying he feels a bit like Narukami, and I can see why, because of the Tempest Bolt Dragon and Shub. But this is the kind of support that Blade Master needed really, because I guess Bushiroad want people to start using Blade Master a bit more because everyone's just going to Dragonic Overlord. And I can see why, but I do wish Blade Master got a little bit more play. Continuing the Blade Master support, we have Dragon Knight Nadal. Now he has Blaze, and once per turn, if you have a Dragonic Blade Master Vanguard, and one of your opponents was retired due to one of your effects, you can countercharge 1 and Nadal gets plus 4000 power until the end of turn. So quite often you'll get free retires with Dragonic Blade Master and Twilight Arrow Dragon, and if he's behind Radiant Dragon, you can get a potential of 32,000 power. He has no Generation Break, but he requires a Dragonic Blade Master Vanguard, so you're not really going to be able to use this early game anyway. And most of the retiring skills, at least the cheaper ones, have to be late game because they have Generation Break. You can't countercharge as much as Athonic, but you don't have to retire your unit like you do with Athonic, so you can either choose to countercharge 2 and retire 1, or countercharge only 1, keep the unit, and he also gains more power. So for Blade Master decks, Nadal is a very good card. Moving on to Dark Irregulars now, we have Serpent Charmer, who's the generic Dark Irregular card that will stop you from decking out, which they've needed for a long time. So he has Darkness, which means his skill's only active when you Soul Charged on that turn. But if you've got 10 or more cards in your Soul, he gains plus 2k, making him 9k. And if you have 15 or more cards in Soul, you can retire him at the end of the turn and then choose 13 cards from your Soul. Then choose any other cards from your Soul apart from those 13, put them into your deck, shuffle, and draw a card. This will encourage you to continue to Soul Charge even if you're past 15, because what you can do is you can use this guy's effect and you just put all your triggers back into your deck. And then you say if you've got Shaharot Vampire, you strike Gilderay, Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 2, puts you at 15. Then you can use Gilderay's ability and have a pretty good chance of getting 3 triggers. Shaharot will be the unit that needs this the most. The Blade Wings have Debold, and although Ammon may be using this, probably not a lot, because with Ammon you kind of want as many cards in your Soul as possible. But if you fear decking out, then maybe run 2 or 3 of this guy in your Ammon deck just to keep you safe. Next is 3 in the Dark. So with the Generation Breaker 1, and if you're in Darkness, you can drop 1 card from your hand, and when she attacks, if you have 10 or more cards in your Soul, you can draw 2 cards and choose 1 card from your hand and put it into your Soul. Then if you have 15 or more cards in your Soul, she gains plus 5,000 until the end of turn. So this will be useful for cards like Dimension Creeper. If you accidentally drew some, you can put them all into your Soul and then Soul Blast them back out, put more cards into your Soul. But I'm hoping soon that we'll get a new version of Dimension Creeper who has maybe a slightly different effect or just Soul Charge more but later game. I feel the cost should have been you put a card from your hand into the Soul and then you draw 2 and put another into your Soul, rather than dropping it. I feel that's a bit of a waste and you're using up a lot of cards, but maybe it's better than I'm giving it credit for. Still, it only has 8,000 power, so with this kind of power I feel people will more likely use Flying Librarian. She has the same power, but when you call her you Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 2 and draw a card. And Flying Librarian is also Generation Break 1, but due to you only needing 6 cards in the Soul for the draw, you can use it a lot earlier on. And then most people just intercept with Librarian and will bring out Doppel Vampire or Squallmaker Vampire instead. We get a bit of an anti-Daikaiser G-Guardian for Dark Irregulars with Nighttime Gentleman Saint Jerome. Now when he's placed on the Guardian Circle, if you have 10 or more cards in your Soul, then he gains plus 10,000 shield. And if you have 15 or more cards in your Soul, you can choose any number of your units and they gain resist. This does mean also Jerome can gain the resist, as he is a unit on the field. The only reason it gives you the choice is if you're up against something like Phantom Blaster Diablo, where you'd want to be able to retire your stuff through his effect, but to do that you'd have to use this G-Guardian on a rearguard attack, which you probably won't be doing so much. You'd probably go for a Gratabat Malat if you needed to. So he's a bit slower than Dismal, but in the end he is a lot stronger in defense. I highly recommend to use this alongside a Gratabat Malat, because where Malat can Soul Charge and prepare you for this card, it gives you the early game and late game advantage, because you need the Soul, and then later on when you've got all your Soul that you need, you use Saint Germain. Steam Scalar ML Anna is a quintet wall for the Gear Chronicle, and when she's put into your drop zone, you can bind 1 card from your drop zone, then choose any 2 units from your drop zone and put them back into your deck. So because it just says any units, you can put whatever you want back into your deck. You can put triggers, you can put sentinels and all sorts like that. And the bind doesn't hurt you at all really, because if you're using a Chronofang deck, which I'm assuming this quintet wall was made for, that bind can then put in Mudal or Parallel Barrel Dragon, so then you can gain field advantage from that. And also it works for Bind Time Dragon skill, which would let you put more of your opponent's rear guards to the bottom of their deck. We have another unit that has turned into a G-Guardian with Slay whose new title is Golden Beast Slay Flare. When Slay Flare is put on the Guardian Circle, you can put a rear guard to the bottom of your deck and look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Then choose up to 2 of those cards with different grades from each other and put them to the Guardian Circle. This is yet another reason why Gold Paladins work very well with the standard perfect guards that work not only from the hand but also from the deck. Even if you don't get a perfect guard, it's still quite possible that you'll get a 30k shield with a grade 0 that isn't a draw trigger and a grade 1 or 2. And if you're using Holy Mage Connor, you can pump that up to 35k with his Soul Blast ability, which gives him 5000 more shield. Gold Paladin work well with the open rearguard circles, so they can use their Unite abilities and stuff like that, so putting the card at the bottom of the deck doesn't hurt it that much at all. In fact, it kind of helps a little bit. And considering it has no counterblast, that makes it even better, because Gurgwit needs that counterblast. There are 2 new Heart Thump Worker clones, which are Black Spark Moonkar for Gavrail, and One-Eyed Succubus for the Irregulars Sharat. So as most of you probably know, Heart Thump Worker works in the way that when your Vanguard with the specified name attacks, you can put it into your soul, your Vanguard gains plus 5000 power, and you draw. So for these two, it'd be when your Vanguard with Gavrail attacks, put Moonkar into your soul, draw 1, gain 5000. And the same with One-Eyed Succubus, but for Sharat instead. One-Eyed Succubus is probably the better out of the two. It goes into the soul, and Dark Irregulars need soul. And also the draw will help you, because I've played Dark Irregulars a few times, and I've always found my hand's not the best, like I haven't got enough units to put onto the field, so this will help a lot with that. Well, that's it for this week. Feel free to leave a comment about what you feel about the new cards, if you like them, dislike them, what you'd want to see in the future. Be sure to check out next week's weekly update as well. So that's bye from me, James, and I'll see you next week.